I'm Stila Webb.
And I'm Shuvom.
I'm going to write my first fiction novel this year.
And I'm going to film it.
And we're going to release one video every week.
And if you keep up with Stila's word count, by the end of 2017, you'll have...
your book crispier.
God damn it, Siri.
Alright campers, welcome to week 10 of your writing adventure. Today we're going to talk about pacing. Pacing isn't just going fast or slow, it's about being able to ramp up the tension in your story, ramp it down, and knowing when to rest. There's a lot of things going on with pacing.
Pacing is emotionally controlling your readers so that they don't become exhausted by your book or bored.
I love pacing. Knowing what small changes to make to the text to have an emotional change with the reader. I love controlling the pacing of chapters and books and scenes, even down to the order of words in a sentence. Playing with pacing is fun.
Today we're going to talk about pacing in your book, your chapter...
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
What? Today we're going to talk about pacing in books, chapters, scenes, paragraphs, and sentences.
So you can think of pacing in a book as a graph of time on one axis and reader interest on the other.
A lot of people think a good book should be structured like this, where the tension just rises and rises and rises to a crescendo and then everything ends.
That's probably not going to work. One, because the book's super boring, and two, it's really predictable. A lot of people think a good book should look like this, where you reach a huge tension midpoint and you crescendo down. That's also not so great, because then your most exciting part of the book is the middle.
Why are you even here?
Yeah. But a good book's pacing actually looks like this. It doesn't start off at 0, it actually starts off at something interesting, like we told you to do earlier on. And the most interesting part, the one of highest tension, comes somewhere near the end. And then maybe you have a little bit of downtime and a resolution.
Resolutions are good. And in the middle, you don't want it to be super smooth, because you want some downtime. So you want to have ups and rest periods, rising tension until you get to that crescendo at the end.
And if you've been following along with us, you actually know that these little humps in your plot have a name. They're scene, sequel scene. Because a scene is where an action happens, and the sequel is a little bit of downtime, a little bit of rest, but it's still, in general, rising up in tension.
And hopefully more than 4.
Yeah, more than 4. Banana for scale.
Reader interest can vary as well. Keep in mind that different genres mean that you need to focus on different things for the readers to be interested. In a mystery, it's solving the mystery. It's not necessarily the action or the romance that's going to be the driving interest of your readers.
So the vertical axis is not going to be the same for every type of book. It's not always going to be killing and murder and car chases. This could be dramatic tension. This could be tension in the marriage. This could be...
sexy tension.
This could be comedy tension, yeah.
Oh,
so
sexy's so much more fun.
Whatever is keeping your reader interested, you're varying it throughout the book, but in general climbing and having your highest point at the end. Unlike...
in Captain America Civil War, it's a great movie and everybody loves it. What is the most memorable point of that story?
the airport fight scene.
And when did that happen?
In the middle. Yeah, so you don't want your most exciting fight scene to happen in the middle, and then have some weird tail off, and then have a weird fight scene at the end. Plotting your book out like this makes you think about having the most exciting thing, the biggest fight, the highest stakes, at the very end. Imagine if that airport fight scene had been the final fight scene.
Ooh, that would have been so good.
Oh.
So good. Like Pacific Rim got it right.
Maybe?
Yeah, the final fight scene where he's dragging that tanker behind him.
That's not the final fight scene. The final fight scene is down in the hole, remember?
Oh!
It was down in that...
Why?
Yeah, it was...
The tanker! The tanker!
Yeah, so they got it wrong too. The coolest fight scene was in the middle.
Hollywood sucks.
And at the end, they were just down in that hole doing this thing that
They
all...
really should reverse that.
Man. So that's how to pace a book, but now let's go one level deeper.
That was louder than I expected.
So now we're going to talk about chapter pacing. The most important thing I have about chapter pacing is controlling the length of the chapter. In Infinity Squad, I wanted to be a fast-paced, quick-hitting type of book, so my magic rule was keeping the chapters around 3,000 words each. If I had a fight scene and lots of show, lots of description, sometimes they get to 6,000 words as an upper limit. But if I have a long fight scene, the very next chapter has to be short. It has to be a rest chapter. And in general, I wanted them to average about 3,000 words. What are you doing in Catcalled?
Right now I'm about...
Staying in.
No, it's not. So in Catcalled, because it's more of an action-oriented book, unlike most of my other stuff, it's following about the same rule, and I'm not even really trying. That's just what it's averaging out to. So really I'm doing about a chapter a week.
Yeah. And the point here is, we're in our first draft right now, we're adding. You don't have to worry about this in your first draft. You'll catch this on editing. When you go back and make a spreadsheet of how long each chapter is, you'll see that the ones that feel flabby break this rule. And again, it's not a hard and fast rule.
He makes a spreadsheet.
Case in point, everyone makes a spreadsheet.
I don't make a spreadsheet.
Game of Thrones. Average chapter length in book number 1, 4,082. 4,082.
Yeah, that's incorrect.
The average length for book 1 of Game of Thrones, 4,082 words. A little bit fatter than 3,000, but still pretty reasonable. Book 2, 4,657. Creeping up. Book 3, 5,171. Okay. Book 4, 6,522. So this isn't the length of one chapter. Yeah, exactly. This isn't the length of an extra long chapter or a fight scene. This is the average length of the chapter. You can see them getting flabbier as the series goes on. And the last one, 5,718. 5,781. 81. 81. 81. 81.
I'm dyslexic, shut up. So as you can see, he started off at a pretty good pace. A little long, but it's epic fantasy, totally okay. Gets a little longer, and a little bit longer still. Okay, now we're getting into Brienne doing I don't know what. I think it's huge in here. It's double what you really want it to be, so it gets really slow. But these are the averages, and as you can see, these are some big chapters.
Yeah. That's why those kind of later books felt sluggish and weak.
They did, didn't they? They kind of got flabby. And then HBO came along and fixed it all.
So besides controlling the absolute length of your chapters, the other way to improve... So besides controlling the absolute length of your chapters, the other way to improve your chapter pacing is to always end them a bit too soon.
Break them in the right place. So if you're with us for the sequel scene episode, this is what it looks like when you're writing it. You've got a scene, here's your disaster, and it goes down to a sequel where you make your decision, then go back up again. Where I've been breaking my chapters, and where Shuvom usually breaks his, are either on a disaster or on a decision. So when you come up to a disaster, that's when something vital happens. Something big happens, and you can break it right there, and it feels like a cliffhanger of a chapter. And then in the next chapter you have the reaction. Doing it at a decision is another major breaking point. It's, okay, we've been worrying about it, we've been reflecting, we've made a decision, bam, we're right about to hit the rising arc. This is where the action is about to kick back in again, and you get the reader's interest. And again, it's kind of like a cliffhanger, and they have to go on to the next chapter, because that's where the interesting stuff is. What you don't want to do is end a chapter here.
Okay.
So if you're in the rising action, it's just more action. There's no change. You want to break your chapters when the momentum is about to change.
For math nerds out there, break at the inflection points.
Not a math nerd. What you're looking for is to put your break at a point of maximum tension. Another bad place would be right here, when the tension's still going down, you're still resting, and then you have a chapter break. Why? So you want to look for those points of tension.
Here's an example. I looked down at the plans for the mobster's casino. Cameras, guards, triple locked doors, even dogs and biocoded passwords on the higher floors. Breaking in would be suicidal. Getting out clean would take a miracle. Chapter break. Like, that's kind of a weird position, right? That there's no...
Yeah.
Okay. So how about we do it this way? I looked down at the plans for the casino. Cameras, guards, triple locked doors, even dogs and biocoded passwords on the highest floors. Breaking in would be suicidal. Getting out clean would take a miracle. But there was one thing they hadn't counted on. Our plan was simple. If we couldn't break in to get the money, we'd make the money come out to us. Denny would drive the fire truck, Goose would start the fire, and Mac. Mac would be the calm voice on the phone when the casino dialed 911. Chapter break.
See, that one kind of breaks a little bit too late, because now all the tension's gone, we know what they're going to do.
So the optimal one would be something like this. I looked down at the plans for the casino. Cameras, guards, triple locked doors, even dogs and biocoded passwords on the higher floors. Breaking would be suicidal. Getting out clean would take a miracle. But there was one thing they hadn't counted on. I laughed when I saw it, so did Mac. It was obvious in hindsight. Okay boys, I laughed, starting to sketch. Here's the plan. Chapter break. And then you have our plan was simple, I couldn't break in to get the money on the other end.
That's a good place to break your chapter, because that gives you just enough of a hint that something's about to happen that it makes you want to read the next chapter.
Yeah, you're breaking at the point of highest tension. So I call these little lines that you end the chapter with, these little kind of cliffhangers, I call them booster packs, because just like in Mario Kart Racing, you're driving along and it just boosts your story up to the next level.
Just gives a little extra energy.
Yeah. What you have is the hint of what's about to happen, but don't have the payoff. Some of the ones I love using pretty often are things like, there was one thing my captors hadn't counted on. I had a fusion grenade in my pocket. Something like, there was just one last thing left to do. Or, ... It was time to find out. If you go look at the Amazon reviews for Infinity Squad 1, a lot of them say, I couldn't put it down. Oh my god, after a halfway point I couldn't put it down.
I read all night.
Yeah, I read all night. A lot of them say that. And it's because I did that on purpose. In the last half of the book, I made every single scene end on a booster pack to pull you, to shoot you into the next scene.
Yep.
So, it's something you do on purpose to have these books that people can't put down.
That's really something you want to add in the edit. But even while you're writing, you want to think about where you're breaking the chapters. It just makes life easier, and it keeps you in the mindset of always trying to make sure that you're pacing.
Yeah. And as you're breaking, put a little booster pack. Put that last sentence that
why not?
Throws you into the next chapter.
While you're thinking about it, get it in there.
Yeah, that foreshadows, yeah. But let's go one level deeper.
We're still doing that? These aren't scene sequel scenes. These are actual scenes.
We're going to cut that part out of the back.
It's fine.
Okay.
They should really be at the front, though.
The main thing I have to say about scenes is that everything we just said about chapters also applies to scenes. Breaking into the maximum point of tension, controlling their length, and the other thing I was going to talk about was the star idea. These are how you break scenes inside a chapter and jump to another scene, like a jump cut in a movie. And I didn't do it so much in Infinity Squad 1, but in Infinity Squad 2, I wielded these things like an MFing scalpel. Like,
so much.
Yeah. Don't listen to anything your engineering teacher. Don't listen to anything your English teacher says about how long a scene has to be. Get to the point of maximum tension, throw down star, and jump cut to the next thing. That's how you keep the book moving.
And try to do just one thing per scene.
Yeah. One goal, one conflict, one disaster. Don't try to layer on 2 goals or 2 disasters. That gets weird. Set up the conflict, get in there. When it gets the most tension, star, and get out.
In late, out early.
Yeah. I've had entire scenes, chapters are 3,000 words. I've had entire scenes, which are 2 paragraphs, which are 2 sentences, because they made the point I needed. Star, make the point, star, out. So
And this is when you're trying to make things very fast. If you need to slow things down, then you want to make sure you go through those stars and actually write everything out. You want to cut out as much of the jump cuts as you can if you want to keep things nice and slow and mellow.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I forgot to mention, you don't want your book to be operating at 11 the entire time. The star, the wielding it like a scalpel, is only if you want things really short, snappy, if you're accelerating.
Right.
Because
always keep in mind the length is what controls your momentum through 90% of your book. A long scene, long chapters, long paragraphs, long sentences, those all make everything move a little bit slower. Whereas if you make them shorter, that's what brings in the quick pace, the fast happenings, the bam, 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 bam of going through your plot line. So use that as much as possible to make sure that you're controlling your momentum and controlling your pace so you don't bore your reader or exhaust them.
Yeah. Yeah, slow isn't bad. Who's that chick I hate?
C.S. Friedman?
I knew you'd do it! Yes. C.S. Friedman.
Great stuff! Oh my gosh, it's so dense!
Yeah, it's so dense. You know, great science fiction.
Fudge!
Okay. Great science fiction writer, very, very moody, but she does not use this at all. Very long, drawn out, moody.
I love it.
But she's doing that on purpose, right? So the point about pacing is do it on purpose, but she's going for a different effect than I am.
It always comes down to what you're trying to accomplish. Use your tools properly. Pacing is a tool.
Yes, length be ruthless. I don't know what else to say about this.
Don't be a tool, use the tool. Why? Stop that! Put that thing away!
So one of the most important things I worry about when I do paragraph pacing is how does it visually look on the screen. A page that looks like this, with huge rolling masses of paragraphs, is daunting for the reader.
Having a single small paragraph in the middle like this highlights it.
Well, it places extra emphasis on it. You know, it makes it faster at one point. But yeah, it really highlights it when you just break a paragraph like this. But it looks visually different on a page, at least. Then you can also do something like this, where you have just kind of equal, even paragraphs, which is not so great either. So again, for paragraph pacing, you're trying to control how it looks on the screen. Huge blocks of text are very daunting to the reader. You want kind of a more natural flow of big and small.
Yeah. What you want to do is not get obnoxious with it, because this is
Staying in.
What you want to avoid is getting obnoxious with your short sentences and making something that not only visually looks very broken up, but when you're reading it is very choppy.
Yeah. I would only do that in a very extreme case, maybe in the final battle, if there's some really amazing reason to have an action scene like that. But typically, you want to mix, and what you should know is the shorter things, that when you break more often, they get emphasized more.
I know when I'm writing, I pay attention to how long the last paragraph I just wrote was. And if it's a very long paragraph, I make sure I can throw some dialogue in there to break it up a little bit. Or if I've got a lot of dialogue, I know I need to go back and add some more description, have some longer paragraphs in there. Because it's visually pacing as well as narratively pacing it.
Yeah. Even if you have a paragraph, a big paragraph with a bunch of short sentences, people think, oh, short sentences makes it faster. You still have to worry about the visual pacing.
Yeah.
Even though Amazon totally cheesed my formatting in my first book, I still try to control this on my screen when I write, and having the short, pithy lines be their own paragraph highlights them.
I know this sounds kind of silly. Why would you care about what it visually looks like? What's going on here is the reader's subconscious is telling them something about your story just from how it visually looks, and you as the author need to even control to that level.
And one thing we'll talk about a little bit later is the most important part of your paragraph is the end. That's where the punch comes in. So if you're going to put something pithy, put it at the end of a paragraph. But now let's go one level deeper to the sentence.
Do we have to? No. No. Oh.
So my main rule about sentence pacing is that the most important part of the sentence, just like paragraphs, comes at the end. That's where you want your punch.
Like we were talking about with length, even with sentences, length matters a lot. The longer, more wordy your sentence is, the slower the pacing of it. The shorter, faster is going to...
Staying in.
No! The shorter your sentence is, of course, the faster the scene's going to flow. And even the words matter. So if you're going for something fast, go for shorter words. If you're going for something with a little more mood, use longer words.
Here's an example.
I counted 5 men in off-the-rack suits getting out of the car, submachine guns held low as they scanned the darkened street.
I mean, that sentence gets the job done. It's just kind of flabby. You know,
It's very serviceable.
Yeah, it's kind of the basic cable of sentences. So, some people would say, oh, let's make it shorter to make it snappier, which ends up in this.
5 men, submachine guns held low, got out of the car, scanned the street. I totally forgot the word and.
Just say the word and.
And.
So again, that's shorter, it's a little better, but it's still a little bit flabby. Let's put the punch, the most important part, at the end.
5 men in off-the-rack suits got out of the car, scanning the street. each held a submachine gun in their hands.
Right? So that puts a little bit more menace at the end. Now, the funny part is, if you say something like, each held a gleaming, dark, metal submachine gun in their hands, that seems like it adds more mood, but it actually takes away from the punch. So if you want to add mood, add it somewhere else, like this.
I watched, hidden in a deep shadow, as 5 men got out of the car. They wore matching dark suits, none of them tailored, and held matching submachine guns at their hips. Moving with an ease that spoke of long hours working as a team, they scanned the streets, looking for something. Looking for me.
Nice. See, and again, the punch comes at the end, right? Just a looking for me, short sentence. If you wanted to make it even more, give it more emphasis, maybe make its own paragraph.
Looking for me.
Forget everything your English teacher said about having a noun and a verb in a sentence. You can't start a sentence with and, you can't start a sentence with but, you can't have one-word sentences. These are all very important tools to use to increase the speed of your pacing. I've started so many sentences with and it's fine.
Oh, absolutely. Creative writing is a whole different beast.
So those are some basic tools about how to pace different parts of your book, but to really use them, to really become an effective author, we have to go deeper. Oh, you got it, you got it.
Nope.
I'm sure this will work out just fine.
Nope. Nope. E-N. Damn it.